Mental Gains podcast. Today's guest is none other than Roger Gracie. We had a great conversation. I really loved talking to him. For those who aren't familiar with who Roger Gracie is, considered the greatest grappler of all time by many. 10 times world champion, weight and absolute champion ADCC 2005. Very distinguished MMA career, retired and then came out of retirement to fight arguably the greatest grappler in the next generation, Marcus Buchecha, and went on to win. We talk about his career, we talk about his mindset, how he trains now, training for the older Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, and loads more. I think you're going to get loads from this podcast, whether you do Jiu-Jitsu or not. So without further ado, Mr. Roger Gracie. So thanks again, Roger, for doing this. I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. How's everything going?
Yeah, everything good. Everything good. Just my kids keeping me busy.
All right. I noticed over the last year. Pardon?
I said those last 2 weeks I've been quite busy.
I bet you have. I bet it's exciting getting back into the academy and that now that hopefully a lot of the restrictions are starting to ease, isn't it?
I mean, hopefully everything will be lifted. And I doubt it, but we'll see.
We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So I've noticed, Roger, over the last kind of 12 months, you've been doing a lot more kind of podcasts and public speaking. Is that something that you're doing consciously to try and do something else like on a bigger platform?
No, not really. It's been a lot of requests. I think with the lockdown and everything stuck at home, people are watching a lot more than before probably. They just have more time in front of the computer, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So I think a lot of people been doing podcasts and trying to bring some traffic up to the platforms and drawing people attention. So because I mean, with the lockdown, I'm stuck at home too, so I didn't mind doing it.
Yeah, of course. Is it something you've maybe thought about doing, corporate speaking and stuff like motivational kind of stuff? Because obviously the mindset that you can bring from all the accolades that you've achieved, that can transfer over to kind of a business point of view as well, can't it?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that lately, and I mean, we'll see. Maybe I'll start doing a bit more. I think it's good to, I mean, if you can help people with your story, give them a different point of views. It's a good thing, I thought about it, and I might start doing more.
Brilliant.
Don't mind my Argentina cup.
It's all right. I'm going to be drinking some water as well. Are you looking forward to the football?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big football follower, but I like when the big teams play,
Yeah, I'm the same.
England's got a good game on there.
I'm the same. I don't really follow it, but definitely international stuff. Follow like the World Cup and the Euros. I think it's a good for everyone to get involved in, especially after the last year. It's kind of a bit of a celebration as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just an excuse to get together with your friends and have a few beers.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of which, how has it been kind of getting back into the academy, seeing friends, family again, seeing some old faces that you may have not seen before?
Yeah, I think it's good to see people coming back. I think I'm luckily the one place where I see people quite happy. I see that people are very happy to be back. Sorry, just fixing my back. I think people are just very happy to be back in the academy. I think we've managed to create a very nice environment, very friendly, very, where people just want to be and hang out, chill out, have a laugh. I think a lot of people are depressed at home, with all this situation. So just, you see something that you offer, bring people's joy and happiness. It's awesome, When they get to the academy, they're almost in tears, like, oh my God, I'm so happy you guys open. This is great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One of the things I was going to ask you was I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of, a lot is said about the physical benefits of jiu-jitsu, but a lot of things that isn't really like well known and people aren't really aware of is the mental health benefits. So being in that community, that environment, being quite present, so you're not worrying about the past, thinking about the future. I'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of the mental benefits of jiu-jitsu.
I think the mental benefits are probably equally or bigger than the physical benefits, because it benefits your body, it benefits your mind, and I think the training itself, because I mean, I speak by my own experience. Mm-hmm. It's, sometimes I live in London. It's a big city, have millions of people. It is a stressful environment in a way. It can be very stressful.
Hmm.
Not for everyone, of course, but I think for a lot of people it can be. Especially a lot of people who are in London. This is not their hometown. They're for somewhere else. So they're here working. The time is very precious. And in when they come train jujitsu, I think why they find it's a peace of mind environment that they can come and relax and de-stress out.
Yeah.
They when they leave, they are just happier, they better, they have less stress. They were able to leave everything down in the mat. So it's one place that you can kind of zoom out from the outside world, and just there in a great environment, training, laughing. It's having fun with people. It's
Hmm.
because there is no distinction of who you are. Doesn't matter who you are. There's no it's an environment that is you can be very relaxed. There's no pressure,
Yeah.
social pressure or anything like that. And I think training it's such an amazing feeling when kind of have a great session and you just sit and put your back against the wall. It's like, oh my God, I feel so good. Like this is awesome. I tell people when I train, like I sweat my problems away.
Yeah. It's a good
It's
way to
just
look at
like
it, definitely. Mhm.
I just leave my shoulders are lighter.
I always think that if you like after a good training session and you've sweat all your problems away, like you say, if you're driving home and a lot of people have problems with like road rage and stuff, but after a good training session, if someone did unfortunately like bump into you or something, you'd be so chilled out and just going, yeah, it's no problem. Don't worry
You
about
will
it. It's
not
fine.
respond aggressively, that's for
Yeah.
sure. It's like I've just been fighting for an hour, just leave me alone, go home.
So another person who we've just recently seen on Instagram, Fionn Davis was recently down visiting the academy, wasn't she? A few days
Yeah,
ago.
she was. Yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, speaking of herself, she is a massive role model, especially for females. I'd love you to speak on kind of how we kind of get more females involved in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening. If you look at the past and now, the number of women training it grew massively in every area. I mean, I see based on my academy also, like the number of girls suddenly joining in is the
Yeah.
biggest we ever had. It's like kids, adults. You look in the class. Sometimes half of the class is women. Some classes more.
Hmm.
There's one day I was looking at the mat because now is with this situation, the classes are more limited in terms of number of people.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, we get there, it's like half of the class is women, which is that never happened before. It was very unheard of. The half of your class, adult class, is women. I'd never seen that before. So I mean, I think it grew massively. I think women they do finding that it's a place that they can train. I think martial arts in general can be very intimidating to everyone, especially women, because they don't have the physical strength that men does, so they feel more insecure in terms of joining a fighting environment. It's like it's especially when it's mixed.
Yeah.
It's the first thing that comes into your mind. I have to fight men, which is very difficult. It's not easy. But I think now they're finding more and more there is an environment that they come in and train and feel safe, and they can do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's very popular. That's amazing to see. Fiona is doing an amazing job representing the jiu-jitsu worldwide. She's one of the toughest female athletes out there. She's been like competing and doing amazingly well in the past few years to now, and she's still gonna grow as a competitive a lot. She has a lot to grow still.
Yeah, she's fantastic role model for females and young girls as well, coming up now, looking up. I mean, you talk about kind of the social media stars, your reality TV stars. If you're going to kind of look up as someone for a role model for young women, for young girls, then you can't go far worse than looking at Fionn Davis, can you?
Yeah, no.
No. So you're known, Roger, by many as kind of the greatest of all time to ever do jiu-jitsu. And people refer to obviously being a 10-time world champion, your ADCC 2005 weight and absolute, and coming back out of retirement to fight Musashi. When you kind of look back on your career and your accolades, what stands out to you as one of the best achievements you've done?
It's difficult to say the best because I think they're all almost equally important. You know, I don't really distinguish one from one title to the other. I think, you know, if looking back, it's which one was the most important. I would say the hardest. You know, those one that I did that was the hardest for me to conquer. You know, is that I had the biggest challenge winning. You know, I think that's when I look back, and those are that I'm most proud of. Mm-hmm. Not in terms of importance of the titles, because in the end of the day, titles are just a title. Of course, a world championship weighs a lot more than Pan American titles because it's the world. It has a lot more weight behind it, and it's harder because the world is harder than any other tournament. But you know, by looking back, I would say, you know, there was a few world championship. I think they were always really tough. Probably the one that I'm most proud of is the one that I did the best. My performance was the best. I would say, you know, 2009, 2010. I was very proud of myself, the way I fought, the way I competed in the world. 2005, I think that was probably that I was most proud of myself because it was such a difficult tournament physically to fight. And it's no geese, it's way harder physically because it demands a lot more of you because it's so slippery and it's a much faster pace. And it just requires a lot more energy from you. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I did it amazingly well. I was able to finish all my fights, but most of them, they were like extremely hard. And we went like overtimes. Yeah. And then in the end, I got an advantage. I was able to submit, but it's, you know, even submitting all my fights, but I didn't dominate all my fights. And then I submit them like I did in the Worlds, you know, like 2009. I think I finished everyone 2009, 10, everybody but one fighter. But there's no overtime. I did amazingly well. I controlled my fights. I wasn't really in trouble in any one of them, you know. So my performance was very dominant. In ADCC 2005, I did not have a dominant performance. I submitted them, but it wasn't a dominant fight. You know, it was very hard. It was very there and back. I wasn't like I didn't get the upper hand. You know, it took me a while to get the upper hand. And the moment that I got it, I submitted them. It was like, you know, when they turn in their back to try to escape, I got the back and choked them out quickly, you know, like in one move.
I was watching it again on Fight Pass because the 2005 Absolute is on UFC Fight Pass for ADCC. So I was watching that back a few days ago, and I never realized the kind of caliber of opponents you was facing in that Absolute division. Jacare, Sonji Ribeiro, and Verdum, just to name a few. And what was funny, what stood out to me was the final against Jacare, when you was on his back, stood up with a body lock on him, body triangle, and he gives you a bit of a shake of the finger, going no, and then he relaxes, and then you get the rear naked choke for the win. So he kind of lost his concentration for a little bit. That moment stands out to me, but the caliber of
I think the moment that I got his back, and then he lost the concentration a bit in a way that because he knew he was going to lose that. So he said no to the referee, no for the points, because he thought by being standing up, you wouldn't get the points. But body triangle in the ADCC's points, regardless of where you was standing on the floor. So when the referee scored the points for the back control, he knew it was like less than 2 minutes for the fight to finish. That's it. There was, you know, the barely time to recover. So he was trying to argue with the referee, say no points, because he's standing. But it's
right, I get you.
And then in the middle, he didn't really. I mean, he did, but he was more worried about the points than
after his neck.
Getting submitted, because when the fight is already lost, then that makes no difference. And then the split second that I saw the open, slide right back on his neck. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, one of the things.
How difficult was coming out of retirement then to fight Buchecha?
It was difficult in a way that you lose the rhythm of the fighting. You know, so your reactions are not as sharp, and it's you know how your body respond to the tempo of the fight. It changes. So I felt that in the last probably very few years of my competitive career. So my body was not responding as much as used to. That's what I felt, especially being away from like being active competitor like for a while.
Yeah.
It's difficult for you to get that time reaction very sharp, which is very important. You know, in a fight, your timing reaction needs to be very sharp.
Yeah.
But I mean, I train a lot. I dedicate a lot for the fight. And yeah.
Did you get nervous at all for that particular match?
I did. Actually, I was actually talking to someone the other day. It, like in the past few years before that, I mean, I always do get a bit nervous. You know, don't take me the wrong way. You know, nervousness is normal, but I kind of control it. You know, I don't let it expand. I take my mind out of it. I think of something else and then kind of calm down. So my nervous never really reach too high, you know. So the adrenaline doesn't consume me much. But I mean, walking into the fight, especially because there's not really warm up before. You know, you warm up and you go straight into the hardest fight, which is that one. So it's your body. The energy is still accumulated. You know, the adrenaline is still there. So yeah, no, I remember walking into that fight, and suddenly I'm standing just about to walk to the mat. My legs were kind of wobbly. I'm like, fuck, and then I'm hitting my thighs. You know, I'm like, wake up, you know, get the body floating. What are you doing? Like, man, my legs are like I'm shaking. Stop that. Let's concentrate.
I don't know if you heard John Danaher recently on the Lex Friedman podcast. He was talking about you for quite a bit on that podcast. I don't know if you heard it or listened to it.
Yeah, no, I did. He said some very nice words. Very nice of him.
Yeah, he was. So I'll butcher the quote, but he was quoted as like describing your style, that it was simple but with a level of sophistication that was unmatched for your generation. How would you describe your own style?
I would say very similar, because it is very simple, but it's very sophisticated in a way that there's a lot of details that added that makes it very efficient. You know, that's the thing that people miss the most, is how can you make something very, very efficient in a way that the others, they can see it, but then they're not able to defend.
Yeah.
So that's when the attack, it has to be very precise and very I mean, I wouldn't say with maybe the sophistication is the right moment in this aspect, but I would say very precise and efficient. So it's not as simple as people think.
Yeah.
It's so many details that needs to be added to that specific techniques to make it that efficient. That people, unless you explain and tell them exactly how you do it, it's no one can see it, because it's about where you put your body. You know, like small changes. Like if is my weight when I grab the collar, is my weight on my arm, is my weight on my knees? Like, am I leaning forward, and how much space I'm trying to keep from my opponent to, you know, for the second hand to go in. And how much space do I give my opponent so he has room to defend, or do I compress that space where he doesn't have any room even to, you know, to defend properly?
Yeah.
So it's so many things like that people, they don't see it, you know.
I remember I attended a seminar just before like the very first lockdown with yourself at Chester, over at Roger Gracie Academy, Chester, and you was doing a bit of a Q&A session, and you was telling people how, and correct me if I'm wrong, you never really kind of was catching people with a cross collar choke until like brown black belt. It took you that long to really refine that technique. And I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about that, because people, I think, the cross collar choke from whatever position, mount or close guard, is something that you get taught maybe like in the first couple of weeks of jiu-jitsu. But then for you to only develop that to where you're catching the top guys after like 10 years, 9-10 years. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I mean, the cross collar choke from mounts, I wasn't really able to apply it efficiently until after I got my black belt. Not just right after, like a few years after.
Right.
It's it took me years to really develop an efficient way to get, without being breached out. 'Cause that's the most challenging. It's you can't use your hands to defend the mount. When the person trying to escape, they need to be busy. So your positioning, how do you position your body in a way that you can get breached?
Right.
When they try to breach you out, you won't need the hand on the floor. It's almost like how do I maintain the mount without using my arms? That's the biggest challenge.
Right. Okay.
It took me years and years to develop.
Yeah.
It's so to attacking the arm is much easier because you don't need to stay as too low, so you're slightly higher. So your arms are always slightly free.
Yeah. I think it's important to talk about that because I think people do get frustrated if they can't really like get a technique within like the first couple of months or something, don't they? They get a bit frustrated. We all want kind of instant gratification for stuff now, don't we?
You can be very frustrated, if you has no patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people they want quick results. I'm sorry, quick results go both ways. Easy to attack, easy to defend.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the appeals of jiu-jitsu in general anyway, is you're kind of not going to get that instant gratification if to reach a black belt in, call it 10 years in general. It's hard, isn't it? It's not going to be easy. Life's going to get in the way. Things are going to happen. But to keep stepping on the mat day in and day out, that's what's going to get you there ultimately, isn't it?
I think you just need to enjoy training. Do you like jujitsu? Do you like training jujitsu? Learning for people train for different reasons. But if you don't like the jujitsu itself, the training, going to the academy, sparring, and learning, because it's a never-ending process.
Yeah.
It's not you get your black belt and suddenly life changes. Nothing changes. You still need to go to the academy to train just as much as you were when you were purple, brown, or blue. It does not change. It's the same. How long it will take to get your grades, your grading is your belts. Then it's something else different. But if you like that process, you train forever, regardless of which belt you are.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to get, to get graded because it just tells you, okay, you actually are learning. It's not because you don't really feel sometimes. It's like my training partners, I can't get them. They all escape and they all catches me. You're training with them daily. They see what you're doing. They know what you're game.
Yeah.
So it makes it even harder to train people that you train every day. They got you get them once, 2, 3 times. They see it coming.
Yeah.
It's harder to catch them with that same move again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and then you see everyone kind of get better. I think it's hard when you're training with the same people all the time to kind of
everyone gets better the same.
gauge progress. Yeah.
And then you didn't train for a week. Oh, why did you learn that move? I've been away for a week.
Yeah. So who did anyone influence your kind of style, or is it something that has just come naturally to you? Did you look at anybody when you were coming up through the ranks and through competition and think, I like to emulate their style maybe a little bit, or is it something?
Never really consciously. I never really copy anyone's style. You kind of learn different things from different people. Sometimes you learn from people watching. The fighting. You slowly you see why you adapt your game. It's very difficult for you to try to copy a style that's not your natural way, because I think you just need to let your game goes whichever natural way your body favors more. It's you cannot force something that is not natural for you.
Yeah.
It's some people, they would just prefer to play the bottom. Some people, they prefer to play on top game. Some people, they have long legs, they use the legs a lot. Some people, they just don't feel comfortable. They like to use more grabbing the collar instead of grabbing the arms. Some people, they just like to play guard on the back. Some people, they don't. They like to sit more. So it's just letting that natural process. You learn different things. In the way every move you learn, you try to adapt to your body style. It's see, everyone will change slightly the way that that technique is applied, because the function of the body is just unique.
Yeah.
And there's some things that, if you like close guard, you will see things that people do in the close guard, and they say, oh, I think that move will do well for me. And then you just try it. If it feels like it came naturally, that's it. Now just adapt. But the game is constantly changing. It's normal. It's not easy for you to find that style. You will find, and then you just slightly change. My game changed a lot over the years. It's always changing. The way I play guard. I think people get older. Suddenly my back's starting to hurt. I can't really do what I used to do anymore. I have to kind of change.
Yeah.
So that change is always, my game is constantly evolving and changing. Like now, the way I play guard, for example, when I'm on the bottom, is different than how I used to play years ago.
How is it different then, Roger? Could you go into a bit more detail on that?
Lately, I've been doing a lot of butterfly guard,
Right.
which I've never used to use before. So it's something that I'm having fun with it, something that I feel comfortable. It's I like it's fun to play myself there. It's and then I've been doing that a lot lately. So side control attacks. Suddenly I've changed slightly. I'm trying different approaches to attacks. It's it's working really well.
Yeah. It's refreshing to hear someone of your caliber, everything that you've achieved, that you're still able to have that kind of beginner's mind, not a beginner, sorry, but you know what I mean, to go back and like maybe try something new that maybe you've not really used before, or
Yeah,
something.
you have to, because if you're gonna play exact the same thing for the rest of your life, then it gets boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, jiu-jitsu get boring if every time you're on the bottom you do exact the same grip and you exact the same sweeps. Like, open up,
Yeah.
Let's explore new ways.
And I think that's another one of the appeals, is that it allows you, and it's hard for some people to do it, but it allows you to just let go of your ego, doesn't it? And try new things. If you get it wrong, it doesn't matter. You tap, you reset, you go back. And I think when I see beginners at the academy, that is one of the hardest things to try and like put that across, that it doesn't matter, just do it wrong. Everyone's still learning. And that's how you end up training for years and years, like yourself and your father. Yeah.
Learning how to relax, that's the hardest thing in jiu-jitsu for a new person, like a beginner. Like I never knew I had to relax my grips. They just hold and then squeeze for dear life.
So is that maybe something that you would recommend to, or advise beginner white belts to relax? Because it's always easy when you say, just relax, but the person might be thinking, well, that's easy for you to say, but how do I relax when someone's trying to kill me on top? Is that talking about just relaxing your grips? Maybe
they not even realize that the arms are very stiff. It's your brain is you're so tense.
Yeah.
That you can't think clearly. And it takes a while for you to realize, okay, I need to relax because I'm not.
That's why
I'm guessing
after
2 minutes. Yeah. After 2.5 minutes, I'm going,
yeah. So we spoke about kind of, did your style get influenced by anybody? But what about kind of idols, whether that's in jiu-jitsu or just idols in general? People who you look
so my styles, I'm first, the way my father played guard, he's very pressure orientated. On top, he has a massive way to use his body, leaning into the person. So he's always on them. The way he uses his body to press people. Like I probably learned that from him, unconsciously. Like looking, it wasn't never really something that he came in and Roger do this step by step. That's how you use your weight into the person that's coming It's something that came in naturally. I always watched my uncle Carlos Gracie Jr. The way he used to, same thing in the guard, like dominating people with his body. Very uh, uh, like leaning. He doesn't fight trying to fight with speed. Like very dominant in the way he put himself over people. Like the way he mounted, I always saw him like really using his way to kind of press the person. So looking at that, slowly you start implement that to your game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some tall guys that always, my training partners, they always had, good close guards, like a guard game. So naturally, I try to, to see especially close guard. That was always a big part of my game.
Yeah.
And you get like pieces and bits from fighters just by watching, looking at what they do, and then you try. Once if it fits on a game, and just carry on doing. If it's not, and then just leave it on the side, because you might come back to that a few years later.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. Like suddenly, something that I've learned when I was 18, 15 years later, I started to use, because I never really fitted much into my game. I think now it's fitting it fitted like a charm. Yeah, it's funny, like things you learn like 20 years before, 10 years, and then suddenly you're doing it.
What do you think that is then? Because I've experienced a little bit of that before, where I've maybe attended a seminar 18 months previous, got the technique or saw the technique, been taught it, and then 2 years later, it suddenly just started to like click and work, but I've not really consciously tried to train it. What do you attribute that to, maybe?
I think because to implement that your game, you have to change, right? You have to change your grips. You have to adapt for what you already do. So it's difficult for you to, when you used to fight in some ways, as you're fighting, for you to remember, okay, for me to apply that grip, instead of holding the arm, I need to keep my grip in the collar, because the moment it will come for me to try that technique.
Right.
So it's difficult for you to change that grip, because you already do things from that grip, which you're already familiar with. That grip, it gives you like 2 or 3 options more. So to change that, you will have to change your options. So like your sets of attacks, you will change slightly. So there's a shift on your game that you have to be aware of, and it's suddenly once you don't realize much, you're trying something new. It's you're trying to experience, and if that works out, and then you say, oh, then you start exploring more that area, and then suddenly, oh, it fits in my game really well. You naturally get better doing that. So it's more that trying to explore a different area on your game and see if you'll fit, because if it does, and then, oh, this is actually good, I'm going to carry on going this way. Or it gave me trouble straight away. Like the first time I tried, man, the guy crushed me because he did a huge mistake. And then, suddenly you're trying that, oh, he's not crushing me anymore because you're doing something different,
That makes sense. Makes sense. Did you have any idols who you looked up to outside of jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always look to people that achieve something great, like in any sports. Like it's, you look at Muhammad Ali, it's people who actually, had their mindset that they had to achieve. I think that's something that I always look for it. People that they kind of, any sportsman that did something great, it's that mindset. It goes for any sport, any area, even like outside sports. So I always look for people that really achieve something great in the area. Like Senna, it's Muhammad Ali, it's, I mean, people like that. Like Mike Tyson. You look at his mindset, walking to the ring. I mean, you can copy that. It's his determination when he goes into the ring. Like it's like all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like you have that, and I mean you can absorb that into your game.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Tyson was interesting, wasn't he? Because I watched a documentary not so long ago, and when he was kind of Olympic level, just breaking into the pros and that, his anxiety that he suffered prior to going into the ring was massive. So the way he learned to deal with his nerves and use that fear as fuel rather than for it to burn the house down, as Custom Marta would have said, it was massive, wasn't it? The way you could turn it around and then just become an animal inside the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Something that influenced me growing up, I was always obsessed with kind of samurais, ninjas, and Bruce Lee and all that. And a year ago, I heard you talk on an interview about this book here about Musashi. And I'd like you to talk just like why that book was so influential to you and what kind of things you take from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I read that book maybe 5 times now.
Right. When was the last time you read it?
I think last year.
Right.
I think every year, every 2 years, I kind of, when the books that I like, I read them again, you know.
Right.
It's such an amazing story. It's like watching a film, you know, more than once time. If you really like a film, you watch more than once, easily, you know. Books for me are the same. And, you know, if I like the book, there's a few that I've read a few times. I mean, I think that book is very special because, I mean, you see what the person can do when he's really determined to, you know, when he put his mind into it. And I mean, Musashi is such an amazing story. He's, you know, he's self-taught. No one actually taught him anything. So you can see when you're really determined to do something, everything is possible. It's you can do it regardless of the circumstances that you find yourself in, and the you know, the amount of like effort in his mindset that he had to achieve what he achieved. He was great in so many areas. It's not just in fighting. You know, he was a great painter. He was, you know, the calligrapher. He used to, you know, teach, you know, for a point. And I think the discipline that he had was amazing. You know, it's, I mean, you read that book and the parts that he's like facing his opponent, like there's no giving, you know. It's like it's there's no giving.
The biggest thing I got from the book was to what you discussed already, was having that he's not a one-dimensional. He's not all just about the warrior ethos, the learning new skills. He wants to be a balanced person. So, like you say, he's into art. He studies philosophy. He's into calligraphy. He's not just a one-dimensional. He understands that to be a better person takes a lot of things rather than just one individual pursuit. That was kind of what I got from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the technique, that's the perfect technique for anything. Even when the master cut the flower, you know, the way he cut it, the how you call it, the root, and I mean, then suddenly he was the only one who realized this is a master. You know, it was the master samurai, not a master gardener. But he was like, I need to beat this gardener because he was able to cut this. I cannot, you know. And he tried. I'm like, I need to. And he thought it was the gardener.
Yeah. So he kind of appreciated that everybody could be a teacher. That you can learn from everybody.
Yeah.
What was the other books then, Roger, that you read over and over again? You said there was a few books before.
There's a few. I mean, I think the first book, one of the first that I read, was Gates of Fire, Stephen Pressfield, about the Spartans in that Thermopylae, the
300 story.
That's the story of the 300. I mean, that was probably the first one that got me. I think there's a few. I think with Stephen Pressfield too, about Alexander the Great. Genghis Khan. I mean, it was one of the biggest conquerors in the history. I mean, there's a few.
Have you listened to there's an audio series on a hardcore history. There's like a 5-part. It's kind of like a podcast, but it's more like of a history lesson on Genghis Khan. And each episode's like 2 hours long on hardcore history, and it goes into a lot about. It's fantastic if you can get a chance to listen to that. Like,
what's the name?
It's Hardcore History is the podcast.
Okay.
I know there's like 5 or 6 episodes on Genghis Khan, and from start to him, his brothers and his sons and that taking over, and yeah, it's fascinating if you get a chance to listen
Nice.
to it. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I love the samurai spirit and the history. The Shogun, I
right?
read a few times. Yeah, that's a really nice book. I really like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few others about Julius Caesar. I read quite a few.
All right.
I try to inspire myself against people that really uh, from nothing, and then someday they pretty much conquer the world.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So a lot of books about leaders, powerful leaders.
yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll definitely try and read a few of them. The last couple of questions, Roger, before I let you go, because I know you're busy. I asked people to if there was anything what they would ask you while I was talking to you, and the overwhelming response was really 2 questions. It boiled down to. The first one was, how has your training changed from being a full-time competitor to now being kind of the place where you are at the moment in terms of like a typical week? How much jiu-jitsu would you do? What strength and conditioning would you be doing? Do you do any mobility work? So if you could just talk a bit about that for us, please.
So I think now I kind of found a balance that my training routine now it takes about 5 days a week. I train jujitsu. I have Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I have a good session on my gym that I get my higher belts, my instructors, and a few other students, almost like a competition class.
Right.
So I do that 3 times a week, and I do weights twice a week. And I think I could train more, but when I train, I try to push myself. So I find if I train jujitsu every other day, it's a good balance that I can push and then my body can recover, and then I can push again. And Tuesday and Thursday I do weights. I don't like to do heavy because I don't like to get too stiff, and I've never really pushed to my maximum. It's more to keep my body healthy. So I find when I'm doing like a basic weight session, my body gets much stronger. So when I can push more when I train jujitsu,
Right.
or I can sometimes you fall into weird positions. I can do stand up, so it's my body's much stronger. My core is stronger.
Yeah.
And I mean sometimes it's I go for a walk. Like if I'm feeling good, I can train a bit more. But I find those 5 times a week has been good. And I just added that one boxing session because I've been back training with my boxing coach that I haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah.
Just for the fun of it, it's good to keep the hand sharp.
Yeah.
So I think for me that's it fits well into my routine. If I do more, I'm too tired. I need my head, and there's a lot of things I need to do apart from just training. I'm doing quite a few other things like business wise. If I train too much, I'm too tired. All I want is just relax.
What with the
So,
weight
yeah,
sessions?
that
You just sticking to compound lifts. What kind of lifts exercises are you doing in the weights?
a lot focusing my core,
Right.
hamstrings and glutes because that's the weak part of my body.
Yeah.
And a little bit for chest and pulls, but like very very limited. So a lot of things with dumbbells. Legs, wide single legs, squats and lunges. So we can always, balance out. Jiu-jitsu is very unbalanced in the body.
Right. Yeah.
So those helps a lot. And a bit of deadlifts. So I think that helps.
Yeah. Do you put much time into like mobility and stretching or anything, or?
I do, not as much as I should.
Yeah.
But it's something that now if I don't, I almost like I have to do it. Like if I don't stretch after jiu-jitsu session, my body's way stiffer afterwards when I cool down. So it's like I kind of have to do that. So I mean, I'll be 40 this year, so I'm getting the stage that I do have to look after my body like I've never done before. So things like that now it's a must. Like it's very important that I do weight. So my joints and my shoulder, knees, lower back, necks, they get stronger. And stretching, is very important. It's very, very important, because otherwise my lower back especially start bothering me.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I was 40 last year, and it's almost like I turned 40 and now I feel loads of aches. I didn't feel any aches and pains at 39. And as soon as I turned 40, I feel everything now, like in my back and my hamstrings and my knees.
Yeah, like for me to train like hard every day now, I find difficulty, like especially my lower back, sometimes my shoulder, my neck is always stiff. So I don't want to live with pain. So if I train every other day, I can push, my body can recover, and then I'm healthy to train again. If I train more, if I start training hard every day, I know there'll be some days that my back will scream for like slow down.
So that leads us on to the next question that got asked, and you might be covering some of the same points, but the next question that was asked was training for over 40s. So those who are doing jiu-jitsu either just started and are 40, or maybe those who have trained for a little bit but are now getting a little bit older. What should they kind of concentrate on?
I think, if you train twice a week, that's the minimum, and that for a lot of people that can be enough. I think minimum wise, if you ask me, I would say if you train jiu-jitsu twice a week and you do like a weight session once a week, that is, you're gonna keep you will learn. Two times a week, you're still learning. Every week you're getting better. If you train once a week, you're not really learning. It's difficult to improve once a week.
Yeah.
Twice a week you're learning. You'll feel your progress. If you train 3 times a week, you learn faster because you add in more sessions. So of course, but I'll say twice a week and once a week weight. You can train 3 times jiu-jitsu. I'll say once weight and twice a week jiu-jitsu. If you can add 3, if you're starting, you're not going to train 4 times. It might be too much. You'll get injured because you need to learn how to relax first so you can train more to prevent injury. So I'll say twice a week, 1 weight.
What kind of, it might be hard to say because we spoke before about how different levels of athleticism, different body types will lend themselves to different techniques. But for the older people who are training, what kind of like techniques or kind of games should they be like basing it around?
That is difficult. You will find things that you can do that's not really going to hurt you. I think if you're over 40, you want to avoid doing some techniques that puts you in your body in a very awkward position. You don't want to do upside down, legs folded, things like that, because you're just going to hurt yourself. You just want to play healthy game. If you're over 40, 45, you don't want to pass the guard standing up.
Right. When
you need a lot more agility to, and you need like fast reactions. You want to be on your knees, slowly slowly passing. And if you're on your back, same thing. You wanna avoid getting your legs folded on top of you. So it's not, and then that all goes from that. It's avoid doing a lot of stand up because getting thrown can get you injured. It's way safer, to focus on the floor when it's the chances for you to get injured is much less.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Good advice. Thank you very much for this morning, Roger. It's been amazing. I've loved talking to you. Thanks for your time. And hopefully we'll have you down at Lee for a seminar once everything opens up fully. Yeah,
definitely. I'm looking forward to it. It's a pleasure, David.
And I can't wait to come and visit the academy again as well once we can.
Anytime, we're here.
Brilliant, Roger. Thanks very much again, mate. Cheers.
Pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
See you soon. Thank you.